Yo, today we're going to be reviewing the Linebacker Squat Landmine attachment. This thing seems like it's pretty good, and it does add a little bit of versatility to your gym, what with their variations of squats, overhead presses which are pretty good, rows feel alright, you can do shrugs with it, and they say you could do deadlifts with it as well, but I would say that a hex bar is actually better than this is. But, spoiler alert, this thing sucks. Looking at the specifications for this bad boy, we're looking at 19 inches across from handle to handle, the handles themselves being 25 millimeters. Wherever you stick in your head ranges from 11 inches to 7 inches. The sleeves are 48 millimeters. With Titan being an overseas manufacturing company, they use millimeters for that. And they're 9.75 inches long, with this tube down here being 9.5 inches deep. Despite how bulky it is, it can store upright on the ground, but it stores even better if you lean it up against the wall. Profile up against the wall is about 9 inches. Unfortunately, the handles are bare steel, so they do get pretty fucking rusty. I bought this used, which is why these are so freaking rusty, but pristine? No, but way better. It only weighs 35 pounds. But the max cap is 650 pounds. So that should be more than enough for who I think this is for, which I'll get to in a bit. Now we're moving on to the how is portion of my video, starting with comfortability. The padding on this is absolutely stellar. I would compare it even to my leg press, which is 10 times the price. So I would say that they did not slack there. The knurling on the handles is very passive, so if you're expecting some aggressive knurl here, maybe get yourself some chalk. As for how this baby feels when in use, when you're doing front facing squats, it feels very much like my leg press. And because you can move your feet back in relation to your torso, you can really hone in on your quads. Whenever you're doing the back facing squats, it feels more like a hack squat, which lets you really focus on your hamstrings instead. I bought this used, and so it seems like the previous owner, for whatever reason, was pulling down on this super hard as he was using it, and so it is a little bit cocked this way, which does speak about the durability of the piece a little bit. As for the construction of this piece, all the metal you see is 11 gauge steel, and it is also powder coated, but it does seem like it gets nicked pretty easy. As you can tell by the edges here. Do with that knowledge what you will. I'm gonna read your mind. Ready? Why does this guy have such few subscribers? Wait, that's my mind. You're thinking, all right, so far you haven't really said anything bad. Why does this suck? And there's only one reason. Setup. So you're gonna want a landmine, but you don't necessarily need one for this, because you could just stick one end into a corner, a crevice, whatever, and then attach the linebacker to the other side and go ahead and do your work. If you are sticking it somewhere that isn't very stable, like drywall or what have you, this metal will damage whatever you're putting it into. So DIY tennis ball hack is all you need. As I was experimenting with like how high the landmine should be for it to feel good, I've found that right above the knee or around mid-thigh made it so that the weight doesn't transfer as hard into the landmine, and that way I feel more of the load on, you know, my shoulders. I want this one because it tilts this way. And then slide this way in. Boom. Ready to go. And then this gets attached in here. Nice. Miraculously, my height. Like I said, this tube here is just short of 10 inches. So depending on how long your sleeve is on your bars, you can use that to load more weight on it. So as it's set up, I am using this J-cup as a landmine stand. But it would be better over here, that way it doesn't bend the bar. Granted, it's a beater bar, but you know, I don't want a busted beater bar. But on top of that, this is only half a setup, because I'll have to put weights on the actual piece itself. If you're doing a squat variant, obviously you would want to load up the weights while it's up this high. That way you could just get started with your movement. But if it is up this high without anything to hold up the weight horns, then it's just gonna spin around freely. For example, I'm just gonna use a 25 because 45 would hurt. I put a 25 on this side. I wanna go to the other side to put on another 25. Nope. Now you could always put this on the ground and load it up while there, but you're limited by what your shoulders and arms can handle rather than what your legs can handle. So you would want to load it at the top here and then just get into work. There's only really two solutions I've found online where you can load this without issue. And that's one, with a buddy, or two, if you use some kind of squat rack to hold it up. With it on the squat stand, you can load it without issue. Some of you may already be seeing what the problem with this is, because when I unrack it, what am I gonna do with the rack itself? I can't squat with it there. My only solution has been to move the rack out of the way and then go ahead with your movements. But then when you're done, guess what? You have to re-rack your weight. Woo. Up. With only 90 pounds on it, you could see how fucking annoying that already was. A lot of complaints, even on their own website, say that these sleeves are not standard Olympic sized. And so most people's collars don't fit on it, making it even harder for you to load up as much as you'd like. It seems like my clout collars from Amazon do, but I haven't actually tested it with real weight. So I'm gonna do that right now. Imagine if I was doing more than 145 though. No chance I hold this up. And it naturally goes down too, right? So it's not like it wants to go straight down because that's the heaviest side. And now I have to pick this shit up to load it onto this side and turn it around. All of that already seemed pretty unsafe. So if you're doing it by yourself, you try to load it up with freaking 270 pounds or some crazy shit. I don't see anyone doing it, you know? Woo. And that's why a lot of people will load up this area here, then put the linebacker on the bar and start their movement, making these weight horns here pretty much unusable. And even if you did use two people, if you load up one side with 135 pounds and just have that person hold it up the whole time as the other side gets loaded with 135 pounds, that just seems like a lot of extra work. Just squat, you know? And that's the reason why I say this is not a good buy. Moving on to cost. This base price is $253 off the Titan Fitness website. But they always add protection by route, which is $775. On top of that, taxes add an extra about $20, making this $281 for me, brand new. I got this and those stands for 50 bucks, so be sure to buy used. Always. If you even want this still. Like the video. But wait, there's more. GetRx also has their own version of this, which they've also dubbed the Linebacker, except it's just a hair cheaper. If you look up their website, it's $185. Whoa, 100 bucks off! But shipping isn't free, and then there's also taxes. I'm right down the road, and shipping was still 54 bucks, taxes an extra 20, similar to Titans, making it 260 bucks. Though the GetRx version does have the upper hand in load capacity, because it is advertised as 850 plus pounds. But it definitely has the same drawbacks as Titan, and it would probably be even worse because they decided to put these handles on the weight horns themselves, leaving little room for any kind of squat stand or anything to hold up the actual piece. So who is this for? You might be thinking, Porky, this is for nobody, it freaking sucks. I can definitely say it's not for me, but I wouldn't say it's not for anybody, because a lot of people on the Titan Fitness website swear by it. Most of them saying that they can't do barbell squats because it hurts their back for whatever reason, but this alleviates load on the spine. So if someone has issues with their back for whatever reason, this might let you work out your legs without busting your back up. Because not everybody has the same goals as everyone else. Not everyone's trying to get big or strong as all hell. Like some people are just trying to be able to go on a little hike or, you know, pick themselves up off the ground. So this could build up your legs to the point where you can do that. But at that price point, that setup, that load, I do not see this being a good piece for myself personally. But to each their own. And as always, stay hungry.